Today, we're going to tackle a real historical head-scratcher, the Inca paradox. We're going to explore how on earth a civilization managed to build one of the most incredible empires the world has ever seen without some of the basic tools we think are totally essential.
Okay, so just imagine for a second. Your job is to build a massive empire, and it has to stretch for thousands of miles, right over the spine of one of the world's toughest mountain ranges.
Now, try to imagine doing that with your hands tied behind your back. You've got no wheel for transport, you don't have iron tools to build with, and maybe the biggest one, you have no written language to send messages or keep records. It sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? No way. And yet, the Inca Empire did exactly that. So the big question is, how? How did they pull it off? Well, the first piece of the puzzle is their absolute, unparalleled genius for engineering. They completely mastered the Andes Mountains.
And make no mistake, we're not talking about some small kingdom here. This was Tawantinsuyu, the land of the four quarters, a sprawling empire that, at its height, covered parts of modern-day Peru, Ecuador, Chile, you name it. This was a true heavyweight of its time. To connect this massive territory, they built a highway system that was a staggering 24,000 miles long. Let that sink in for a minute. 24,000 miles, with no wheeled vehicles. This network was basically the empire's circulatory system. It let armies, messengers, and goods move at incredible speeds across scorching deserts and over dizzying mountain peaks.
And their building skills? Just as mind-blowing. They developed this incredible earthquake-proof style of architecture. They'd shape these massive stones to fit together so perfectly without a single drop of mortar that you can't even slip a knife blade between them. It's why amazing sites like Machu Picchu are still standing today, having literally danced through centuries of earthquakes. But this just brings us right back to that central paradox. I mean, a 24,000-mile road network is amazing, but how do you manage an empire this big without writing anything down? How do you take a census? How do you track resources? Well, their solution was the quipu, and this thing was just ingenious. It was a complex system of knotted strings. The color of the string, the type of knot, where it was on the cord, all of it worked together to record incredibly complex information. It's how they kept their tax records, their census data, you name it. It was basically their version of a three-dimensional spreadsheet. Okay, so they could build and they could keep records. But how in the world did they feed millions of people in the harsh, unforgiving Andes? That brings us to their next incredible innovation, farming the impossible.
See, they didn't just farm on the mountains, they literally reshaped them. Using a technique called terrace farming, they carved these enormous steps right into the steep slopes, built stone walls to keep them from eroding, and created layer after layer of new, fertile farmland. They turned what should have been an agricultural dead zone into a thriving breadbasket.
And they grew all sorts of crops that were perfect for different altitudes. Potatoes, maize, and quinoa were the big ones. Llamas and alpacas were also key, for transport, wool, and food. But here's the real genius move. The state controlled these massive storehouses, creating a food surplus that meant nobody would starve, even if there was a bad harvest. It was brilliant planning.
So, an empire without writing is one thing. But get this. What about an empire without money? This leads us to the social engine that powered the whole Inca civilization. How did it all run?
Their society was a super strict hierarchy. At the very, very top was the Sapa Inca. And this guy wasn't just a king, he was considered a living god, a direct descendant of the sun god Inti. And that divine authority flowed all the way down through the nobles and priests to the everyday people.
So, with no money, how did they pay taxes? Simple. You paid with your time and your labor. The Inca had this brilliant system called the mita. Instead of currency, every citizen had to work for a period of time on state projects, building those incredible roads, farming on the state terraces, or putting up temples. This system of collective contribution was the engine that literally built the empire.
You'd think an empire this powerful, this organized, would be invincible, and yet it collapsed with shocking speed. So, what happened? And what kind of echo does it leave in our world today?
The whole thing just unraveled with breathtaking speed. First, a massive civil war breaks out between two brothers fighting for the throne, which really weakened the empire from the inside. Then, right at that moment of weakness, in 1532, the Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro shows up. He captures the emperor, Atahualpa, and that was the beginning of the end.
It was really the perfect storm. The empire was already torn apart by its own internal conflicts. Then it was ravaged by European diseases the Inca had absolutely no immunity to. And finally, it was toppled by Spanish steel. It was just a tragic and unbelievably swift end to such a mighty civilization.
But you know what? The story doesn't end there. The Inca legacy is alive and well. The Quechua language is still spoken by millions of people. Their beautiful textile traditions, their music, and even their advanced terrace farming techniques are still a huge part of the cultural fabric of the Andes today.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The story of the Inca is such a powerful reminder that there isn't just one path to innovation and success. It completely challenges our assumptions about what a society needs to be advanced. It really makes you wonder, what can this ancient ingenuity teach our modern world?